And we're recording. Oh dear God. So, Nick, there is an article posted recently on Kotaku about a crunch in the world of video games. And if you don't know what that means, it's basically when people basically ask you for overtime, and it's not like a small thing. It's not like a thing they do in a sprint anymore. It starts almost right away in game development cycles now. And a lot of the times, this overtime is not just like ridiculous in terms of the hours they ask for. Some of it's even unpaid. Unpaid.
Yeah, why aren't there huge lawsuits about
There was
this?
one. EA apparently got sued for fucking millions, and since then, supposedly they've been a little less terrible about it. I mean, someone was telling me, someone who actually kind of knows a couple people in the industry, not like important people, just like random programmers and stuff, that like they seem a lot more happy at their job. But I'm just like, it's stunning how many people I've talked to who like either have jobs like somewhere related to video games, or know people or just in software in general, along with like posts on, say, like the NeoGaf thread or the comments. A lot of people just think this is like a normal thing, and even if they think it's bad, they don't even want to get up in arms about it. Like it's like just this necessary evil to them.
The
And that's
thing
really
that
depressing.
the thing that's really like I think really puts in perspective how crazy this is that it's all a matter of perspective. Like, for example, there was a time where Walmart got in trouble for unpaid, having people work without being paid. To the point now where Walmart will fire someone for working even like a minute off the clock. Like, they are super strict about
Yep.
that. And Walmart's a big company, and they have to follow certain regulations. But yet these big video game companies, who are not only making people work off the clock but overtime, so they're working more for nothing. And yet it's like, oh well, just nothing we could do about it. We got to make these video games.
Even though every study, I mean, okay, you could say, oh, most of these groups they've tested it on weren't video game developers, but that doesn't fucking matter. Uh, Basically, like every study into this kind of stuff has shown that when you push people this hard, it doesn't give good results. And this should just be obvious, because you can apply that to anything. Like if you work out that hard, like non-stop, you're gonna fuck yourself up. Like your muscles are gonna give out and you're gonna die. They
Yep.
had, for Sega's Iron Man 2, mandatory 12-hour days, 6 days a week. That's like the kind of shit that would drive like me to murder.
And it's a game that probably didn't even make that much money.
Of course not. It was never going to.
So it's like, what is even the point of that? Like, you're
Gotta
really
get
gonna
it out
tell.
as fast as possible so it's relevant.
The thing is, though, I guarantee if they had made that game just a smaller project, as in like it didn't need that much
Hmm.
time, it would have done just as well.
Yeah,
But
probably.
like, you could have made a game that was maybe a little
Yeah,
shorter
no
or
one
a
was
different
paying attention
style.
to that game.
Yeah, I doubt anyone would have been like, "Oh my god, this game's only 6 hours instead of 8 or whatever." Like, I doubt anyone would have cared.
Yeah.
You know,
Hmm.
the game probably got slammed pretty hard as is. So it's like, did that crunch really matter? Like, it's so, I don't even know the word for it. It seems like almost petty. Like, uh,
It's terrible mismanagement.
yeah, it is.
Really,
It
all it comes
is.
down to.
Yeah.
And what's stunning is just like how many people like either defending it or just saying it's like, well, you want to speak out against this, someone's willing to take your job. And it's like they don't even understand that a lot of this stuff's basically violating state laws in a lot of areas too. They just
Yeah,
kind of
like, this
do it.
is like not just like a matter of, this isn't just a matter of competition. This is borderline like slave labor. When you're working for nothing, that's not a job anymore. The whole point of his job is that you get money.
And beyond
That's
this,
like
it's like
that's how
anyone
it
who wants to defend
works.
this shit, it's so obvious, and I feel like we got into this before with like the slippery slope argument of AAA games.
Yeah,
I think this
definitely.
applies again. Is how many AAA games released basically completely fucking broken straight out the box,
Yeah.
like just last year alone? Like that did not happen that long ago. Like that was not a common thing, and
And
it's becoming a common thing. It's
you know
because
what I
the
think that
like
really proves though
what?
is, how you were saying that oh, people defend it and say it has to be done this way because games are so hard to make.
Hmm.
If even with all this extra time of work where you're having people work 40 hours in 3 days and some crazy nonsense like that. If the games are still not actually finished when the release date comes, that should tell you that this isn't just a manpower thing. There's something significantly wrong with the entire business strategy of how these games are being made.
Prioritizing the wrong things and probably mismanagement.
Yeah, this idea that, games are just really hard, that's why we need crunch. No, because it's not working. Games are still being made and they're being released unfinished.
Yep.
Like, something has to give at some point.
Yep.
But whatever, I don't know.
Everything's terrible. Everything. But hey, E3's coming up soon. Maybe they'll finally announce The Last Guardian. Is there anything we're actually expecting to be announced at E3?
I think there's rumors of Fallout 4, but it hasn't been confirmed, which is another thing I hate in the game industry, where everything has to be a goddamn secret. Why is that such a thing?
Because a lot of publishers know video game players are marks, and marks love the hype train. Marks love that. Like, how many people got on like the Bloodborne hype train when it was Project Beast? Like they're all like declaring that they're hype. It's like, did you not think they were making another video game? Like,
and on top of that, we literally knew nothing about the game.
Like, shouldn't you have boarded the hype train once you finished whatever your last From Software game was and was like, can't wait for the next From Software game? But no, it's like, we get like a couple screenshots. It's like, my hype is rising. It's like, fuck off. Like, really? Can we stop with this? Can we stop with this being? It's almost like people are proud of being hype. People always speak about it in such a nostalgic way too.
Yeah, like I remember waiting for this game. It was so fun. It's like
that's like not a memory I ever associate with good games. It's always a memory I associate with bad games.
Yeah, me
too. I remember being excited for Brawl.
I remember being excited for Diablo 3.
Oh god.
Oh, I was so excited for that.
I wasn't excited for Path of Exile, and I just found it and was like, oh, this is way better. And guess what? Didn't need any hype. Just played it.
Yeah, a lot of times the best things are the things you didn't even know you were going to find. Like, people get way too caught up in the anticipation of a thing. Like, sometimes you can have great experience with just a thing you didn't even know what it was.
Yep.
I wish more people would think about that. Like, there's a lot of good games that people probably never heard of, but if they gave them a chance, they'd probably be like, wow, this is really fun. I didn't know what the hell this was.
People aren't sold on fun anymore. And that's like, if you really need a good example, it's just Kickstarter alone. And I'm not in any way shitting on Kickstarter or any developer uses. Don't like spin that around. But I'm saying almost every single one of those projects sell on art alone over any like actual promised quality. Like almost every major indie game that I've seen funded on Kickstarter, from Darkest Dungeon to Ghost Song, 100% sold on their art, not on their mechanics. The mechanics were like, you had a vague idea what they were, but you weren't even able to play the game. And I'm not saying they should offer it, but I'm saying you see it and you go, oh, I like the way that looks. Like, no one actually saw that and was like, oh, I'm 100% certain that will play good.
That actually reminds me of a few posts I saw on NeoGAF that drove me up the wall about the Bloodstained Igarashi's new Castlevania game on Kickstarter, because I saw a lot of posts of people saying like, oh my, I love Symphony of the Night, and this guy is really good at what he does, and it seems like they're really doing some really cool things with this, but I'm not gonna donate until I see actual in-game screen for the art. And it's like, okay, so let me get this straight. You got the guy who basically made the genre that you love, and he's laid out all the things he's going to do to actually make the game, but you're not interested in it because the art is the one thing that isn't, like, that's the one thing you have to have.
I think Mighty Number 9 burned a lot of people on that, because that game got funded quite a bit and looks like absolutely nothing like what I'm pretty sure most people assumed it would sort of look like, because it's not like they gave you an inclination that it wouldn't look like that. It's like, that game does not look like it was funded for millions of dollars.
It's definitely a situation where I think a lot of people are kind of getting their first glimpses of what game creation is actually like.
Yep,
it's a lot. Sure. People, I think, have this really naive idea of like how you make games. Like, oh, you write concept art, the game's gonna look like that, and it's like, no, it doesn't work that way. Like, and yeah, $1 million. How much did Mighty Number 9 get? I know it got a decent amount.
Yeah, a
Like, yeah,
lot.
that's that's a lot of money, but depending on the type of game you're making, that money runs out really quick. Like,
Um,
it's not. Uh,
People don't
that's the
even
one.
realize how much it's like employee salaries can eat up so much alone.
Yeah, especially when
Like
your
that
team.
project was not like because the thing that's nice about being completely like it's like a bunch of random indies like say us is like no one's really asking for money up front if like they're all just part of like a team of friends or something. But something like that's
Yeah,
like no, he's hiring everyone. Like he has
yeah,
to pay all of them like it's their job.
and the thing is, some of the people he's working with are like some of the most talented,
Yeah.
people. It's like he's got this composer who made some of the most memorable, video game music ever. It's like, well, obviously that's gonna cost money. That person's not gonna work
Yep.
for pennies. Like, you don't get that talented and then work for free. It doesn't work that way.
Well, in general, a lot of people, like, I don't think they understand like what's going on behind the scenes. I mean, there are still people I knew who, when I just told them I was like working on like a Half-Life 2 mod, which isn't obviously like not even as hard as making your own game. They're like, oh,
Yeah,
so you like play like a lot of games? It's like, no, like I spend most of my time staring at like shitty textures and like trying to figure out why the stupid enemy won't move correctly. Like,
yeah,
it's not. I mean, it's fun. Like, I mean, it's like satisfying, but it's not fun. Like you're not playing your game going, "Ooh, this is fun. I'm
yeah.
making art."
It's a different type of entertainment.
Mhm. For sure.
Yeah, I think satisfying is probably the best word to describe it.
Yep. It's gotta be even more of a
Um,
pain in the ass in movies.
which kind of brings up a thing that I've been wanting to talk about for a while, is that I feel like very soon we're gonna kind of go, I don't know the word, I guess I would say like a new era of gaming where I think the ideas are like idea people, quote unquote, are gonna become more common as it's cheaper to make games.
Yeah, the
It's
funny
getting
thing
cheap.
is like a lot of people are saying like, oh, like we're like facing the death of like auteurs, and it's like I don't think that's true at all, because
Yeah,
there's
I think
like a lot
it's
of indie guys where it's like I'm not even saying whether or not they're great designers. But they totally did just get to make or are making like just the thing they wanted to make. Like Braid or Fez or Ghost Song
or
or Dark Stone.
Necro Dancer game that I hear a
Yeah,
lot
like all
about.
those games or like yeah, anything from like Devolver Digital. It's like those are games like a dude or a group of people were like we want to make this and it came out with what they wanted to make. No one
Yeah, like
told them what not to do.
yeah, like I have this really different idea for a game, and I think it's
Yeah.
good. And I'm gonna make it, and it goes back to, there's that old saying that things go in cycles.
Yep.
Because when gaming first started, it was almost all auteur work. Like
Yep.
Atari games were made by like one or two people. NES games had very small teams. But then as things grew, it started to become more corporatized, bigger and bigger teams. But now on the indie scene, things are shrinking back to kind of how it started. So it's kind of interesting how that's played out.
Yeah, that
So yeah,
and I guess we could mention because Sony recently said, I believe it was Sony, said that Bloodborne sales kind of surprised them, and I think they can a little bit of that is thanks to the order being so fucking blah. But
the timing was pretty amazing.
I think games like that are going to become a bit more common. Like games that are like system sellers to some people that are like not aimed towards everyone because they're going to start making more of those and less Destinies. Like a game that was like just sort of a whatever like kind of vague idea that was eventually just like, oh, it's a shooter with stats that we're going to like, parcel up with DLC as much as we can. $60 day one. And it's like $500,000 worth of marketing, if I remember correctly, like something ridiculous like that.
It was a ridiculous number.
I'm pretty sure it was that number.
Yeah, I think it was.
Look that up right.
And while you're looking that up, the thing is, I kind of feel like this is really long overdue, because I think especially early on in the last generation, if Microsoft and Sony pushed games like that more, I think it would help them a lot. Because Nintendo had the more casual market they pretty much took that and ran with it. I think if Sony and Microsoft did more to try to
Yeah.
court more, now I wouldn't even say niche audiences, but just more,
Get more out there in general.
yeah, just a variety
Yeah,
of
did I say
things.
500,000? I meant 500 million. They
Did
apparently
you,
invested.
wait. Did you just say $500 million?
They invested 500 million into development and marketing for Destiny. And I mean, how much of that million went into marketing? Because it says, I just found one right here. It says estimated $6.7 million TV ad campaign. Holy shit, son! Like that's enough to fund like anything we've ever wanted to do ever.
It's just.
Like there's just so many games I feel like you could easily fund for like the amount of money they spend on marketing alone.
You know
that
what?
would do pretty good.
To tie this back into the whole crunch thing and overworking people, is someone really gonna hear that and not concede that maybe some of that money could have went into hiring more people?
Nah.
Like, really, is someone that defends crunch not gonna at least go step back a little bit and be like, okay, maybe that's too much. Maybe some of that money could have hired more people so everyone would have more evenly distributed hours. And
it's clearly bad management. Like,
yeah,
it's
like there's no way around that. Like, come on. Jesus Christ. That's a lot of fucking money. And after all that, they just said recently, like, oh yeah, with Destiny 2, we're going to kind of go in a different direction because, yeah, please forget about us being terrible.
Welcome to the future. The digital future.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Digital and mobile future. For Konami's coming. Aren't you going to follow them?
Nope.
Yeah.
F that shit.
By the way, you had a fun example. Speaking of digital and publishers being goofy, of not being able to play your own fucking games with like a thing they offered for free. You should get into this. I'm just gonna let you.
So Sony did a really cool thing a long time ago on the PS3 where they made a app you could download for free on the PSN store, where all it did is you could basically use your PS3 to have your PSP play online, because PSP is really old now. When it was made, playing online when a handheld was not like a common thing at all. Like, compare it came out around like the Game Boy Advance was still in. I think the DS came out shortly around that time, and the Game Boy Advance didn't have any sort of multiplayer like that. It had like a link cable thing, and the DS was very limited. So, we're not blaming the PSP here. It was good for its time. So Sony kind of fixed that. They're like, all right, here's this thing. You can play online with people on your PS3. It's great. And I'm like, awesome. Thanks, Sony. Well, for whatever reason, you can't download that on the PSN store anymore because of technical reasons. Like, they didn't remove it, but when they updated the store, it like doesn't show up when you search for it or some shit. In Japan, they did remove it for reasons. Now, here's the thing that will be really baffling. Okay, so we lost that because they updated the store. The store is way worse than it used to be. So those updates were negative value on top of the fact that they fucked up some things. But you can still get this program, this app, by going to PSN store on your PC, checking download on your account, then going to your console and check your transaction history and then download it. Because apparently the PC version of the store is the old version and not fucked up, I guess. I don't know. I'd be fine with the digital future if these companies had any idea what the fuck they were doing.
Yeah.
They clearly not.
It goes back at least as early as 2011 with Gabe Newell saying, piracy is a service problem, not a price problem. And I feel like that's such a perfect example where it's like your service is so shit. It's like if PSN was on, okay, here's all you have to say about like things like PSN or even like Xbox Live or whatever. These things were on like PC instead of a closed platform, and they would be pirated out the ass. Like,
oh, and that reminds me, because I did check into it. There is like a pirated version of that app.
Of course
that you
there
can
is.
Download that has like its own server and whatnot.
Of course.
Probably because there's people. Because from what I hear, my friend looked into it. I guess in Japan you just cannot get that app officially at all. Like, you just can't.
Remember, the ESA wants to tell you that's illegal.
Yep.
And somehow you're doing something bad.
to get a feature that was originally
Morally
offered.
wrong, Nick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, oh shit, what was I gonna say? I had something relevant to that to mention.
Or figure it
Shit.
out. Oh shit.
Uh,
Oh shit. Am I gonna have to like awkwardly segue?
Oh no. All right, so DLC I think is a perfect thing to bring up about this because most DLC is like attached to an account, like you know, like your PSN account,
Yep.
your Microsoft account. So, you know, let's say you buy this game and you really like it and they have a lot of DLC and it's more content, so you get it. Well, the thing is, if that account ever gets banned for any reason or locked or lost for whatever, let's say you had $90 DLC, it's just like poof out of existence. Like that digital information of all that transaction, all that money you spent, just gone.
Yep.
And people will probably, you know, definitely say, well, it's your fault for being banned. Well, here's the thing. Mistakes happen. Shit happens. You shouldn't be, like, basically content you already purchased is being taken from you. Even if you deserve to be banned, I don't agree with that. That's not right.
Yep. It's like most games, like the most preserved they get by big publishers is like re-releases.
Yeah,
like that's,
which you have to buy again.
Yep. Hey, Master Chief Collection, and it doesn't even work. And guess what? They're trying it again, this time with just Gears of War, which is
why would anyone buy that?
Such a like, is that really gonna sell that?
Who the fuck is gonna pre-order that?
You're gonna love this though. Is people like a lot of people are talking about that like that's like their shooter, like that's like the most skill-based shooter they've ever played, and I'm like, is this really like the bar that like major game? And if we should, I want to touch on this a bit because we were talking about how I really feel like the average gamer is definitely dumbed down, and it's not because people are stupid. It's because like they're made by like the environment around them, which includes the things that are like provided, you know, as like big things. And most like big gaming publishers like to make things really stupid. And it's starting to show really bad when it's like a regen health third-person cover-based shooter that has like easily some of the most clunky whatever controls, which is why they kept like iterating on it in the later games. People were like, it plays like Coming. That's an actual post someone made because it's all about bouncing towards people in this really glitchy looking manner in a way the devs probably didn't intend at all because they really just expected you to just kind of get behind cover and not get hurt because it's tactical.
You on some Metal Gear Solid 2 shit right now. The way you frame this, I'm like, this is like
it's
Metal
so
Gear
bad
Solid 2
though.
shit.
It's like there's just so many things that like people are like, oh, this is art, and I'm like, this is the most basic writing I've ever seen in my life, and they're like, no, it's amazing. I'm like,
I've heard that a few times. Like I've heard people say like, oh, Gears of War is secretly like amazing, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna be honest with myself. I don't know anything about Gears of War. I'm gonna look into this because, you know, I'm really interested in games that are trying to be, you know, deep and insightful and whatnot. So I look up stuff about it. I'm like, what? There's nothing here. This isn't like anything smart or interesting. Like what? What the fuck are you people talking about?
You get to bounce around with the cover system. That makes it deep. It's like, oh, instead of having basic movement options, you have to jank the game out. Isn't that like what people accuse Melee of doing? Jank, like
not really. Like,
well, I mean, they're always like, oh, you're glitching, like you're like wave dash. It's like no, like this, like you're actually doing that in Gears of War. Like you're going towards cover and then canceling it and then doing a different motion out of cover to like be quick. Because if you just try to be quick the normal way, you just do a sprint, which is almost always horrible. And I don't know why every fucking game ever has it along with aim down the sides, which is another thing Gears of War has.
So literally Gears of War's whole like high level movement options are based on like Kara canceling and glitching.
Yeah, it's basically like freaking out the cover system. like you just look up videos of this and it's like this is like the highest skilled stuff people do with like what they call wall bouncing. It's like this doesn't look like natural. Like it doesn't look like good. Like they're just kind of like, I don't even know how to describe it because like you glued a cover from such a weird distance and like this movement that human beings don't do.
So basically, like in order to be like a high level player, you have to learn what these invisible limits are and when you can stick the cover.
Because you can't just crouch. You can't just like.
That is so.
I love those situations where there's like limited cover and you can't just crouch because reasons.
Yep. And
Yeah.
that's why people look at me like I'm crazy when I'm like, I don't play shooters with the cover system. I'm like, what? Then what do you do? I'm like, well, the game I played, you hit a button and you crouch, and
Yeah.
then you're behind the
Craziness.
cover. It's
It's
like
fucking insanity.
it's actually much simpler
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
much more intuitive and organic. Like, oh, there's this little sign that you can't hide behind in a cover-based shooter because it's just like this generic, like, scenery object. But in
Yep.
my game, you can hide behind it and then, be sneaky. But,
Yep.
that's actual, like
That's actual
gameplay.
design.
Yeah, it's I don't know. That's must be horrifying to some people.
Yep.
Uh,
But yeah, it's like that's why it's hilarious when I see like a game like Splatoon, and I'm just thinking it's like how many people are gonna be like so blindsided by that game? Because there's a lot of people who are excited for that. But like that game does not look like it's gonna be that baby mode. Like it looks pretty fast and it doesn't really let you camp. And I was just thinking like to this like thread where it's like how many people find games like really hard now, and like so many people are trying to blame like their age. And it's like no, games have just made you like let you beat really easy games and make you feel good about it by like just jacking you off as many different ways as they can.
yeah, I love when I see like I beat Jack and Daxter. It's like, is that game intended to be hard? I don't. Is that like an
Half-Life 2
accomplishment
is my favorite
nowadays?
example because it's planted the seeds for almost everything wrong in the industry. It has these huge unskippable cutscenes, lots of weird gimmicky things, nothing that's really like a good core. Like the shooting is objectively bad. Like the SMG, like the first guns you get, you basically can do next to nothing to control like your recoil or spread or anything, and enemies don't really do anything smart, and they're often like in this really narrow space, and you just kind of
Wait. Are you saying Half-Life 2 isn't that good?
yeah. Wait, now I want to keep going.
Because, well, just let me interject for 1 second because the internet tells me Half-Life 2 is one of the best games ever
Yeah,
made.
I don't give a fuck anyway. And it's like it's got like this weird emphasis on like the story, even though it's like a game about blowing things up and shooting a gravity gun at things. And I'm like, wait, this sounds like a lot like The Order. Like this sounds, you know what I mean? Like a lot of unskippable sequences that like you really want to skip on a replay, and
Well, I would say the Order's probably much more offensive about it.
well, of
Where
course.
it's like,
But
oh,
I'm
here's a
saying like
boss
it planted
battle.
the seeds, like.
I guess. I don't know.
But like what I'm saying, wait, let me get to like my final point is Alex, this character who's like supposedly like so progressive because she's like, oh, it's like a black woman in gaming, is like this like just light enough to not be offensive black woman whose main role in the game, if you think about it, is to be there and be like, good job, Gordon, help me out, Gordon. Good job, Gordon. I think literally 50% of the dialogue, if not more, in that game is Gordon, we need you to do this. Gordon, thanks for doing this. Gordon, you're so cool. Oh my god, it's Freeman. We're going to do it because Freeman. It's like the entire game is just like
So she's
grabbing you by the
She's
dick.
Navi.
It's just. What?
She's Navi.
Yeah. Well, everyone's in the game's Navi. Like, the entire Resistance is like, oh my god, it's Gordon Freeman. Like, one dude's going to do this thing.
So you're saying the game's jacking you off? Like,
Yes,
super hard.
it's jacking you off super hard, and so people beat it and they go, "Oh, I felt good doing that," and then they play Dark Souls and they get fucked up by the Taurus demon because nothing in the game was like, "You can do it." Like, no, you actually have to do it. Like you don't.
The first guy's like, yeah, probably get fucked up, man. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're doing.
Yeah, like you actually have to earn like your stripes. I remember like I was playing Dragon Age Inquisition and the game even starts with like this really vague like idea of like who you even are as a character. Like I really wasn't sure what I was even supposed to make of myself. And as quickly as possible, the game's like, "Oh, you're like a leader." And I'm like, "I am? What? Am I?"
Yep.
Like,
I
yes,
guess-
tell
I
us
guess.
what to do. And it's like, you really earned your way here. It's like, have I? Like, I just kind of keep selecting dialogue options and spamming my energy shield.
Hey, man, somebody's got to hit that energy shield button.
Yep.
And it's not going to be any Joe Schmo. They need a leader to hit that button.
And it's like, the thing is what I'm trying to get at is like a lot of these games, it's like they basically win brownie points by having a lot of money behind them and being like really politically correct progressive. Like, they're not actually like progressive, but they're pretending to be progressive. Like, oh, Ellie in The Last of Us, she's like like allusions to being a lesbian. She's like a spunky, strong, independent woman who just happens to be 14 and seems like
But-
zero people I've ever known at the age of 14.
But at the end of the day, you're a white dude shooting a bunch of people.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
like,
You're
what
both
does it
white.
matter?
Her being a young girl has like nothing to do with your predicament. She's never a burden, really. But it's like, oh, it's progressive because she's like not like weak. She's not, but she kind of is, but not really. Like she doesn't. She's just kind of a nothing.
She's just there, you're saying.
Like she could just as easily be 20 something. Like it really doesn't matter. She doesn't like. This is absolutely not what I would envision. Because I can even think back to when I was that age. It's like trying to picture being in her shoes. It's like no, I'd be fucking useless as shit. Like I'd be horrified and scared all the time. It'd be bad. The game doesn't tie any of that in because that'd be inconvenient. That'd be really inconvenient. BioShock Infinite, another great example where it's like, oh, like you're rescuing like this woman who's like really spunky and like she's like the main character. Like the story is really about her. It's like she's been trapped in like a room for like literally her entire life and shows exactly zero signs of it. Like, guarantee you lock me in a room for 20 plus years, I'm gonna come out a little weird.
You'd think that.
Not very charismatic. Not exactly dancing with random strangers and smiling with that goddamn DreamWorks smile that they love doing. But you know, video games. They're bad.
So, another thing that I think is always kind of interesting about the video game industry is like people are always look to the past and like when they want to think of new ideas, because like a lot of people, and I understand where they're coming from, really upset that Marvel's basically not working with Capcom anymore. So Marvel's Capcom is probably never going to happen again, or at the very least not anytime soon.
Yeah.
And people are like, man, it sucks, Marvel's dead and we're not going to have a fighter like that anymore. And I'm just thinking to myself, it's like, well, why does it have to be that way? Like, why Capcom could probably make a deal with somebody else. I mean, it wouldn't be the first time
Fighter
there's been a
versus Dragon
crossover.
Ball Z.
Like, well, maybe they could work with Nintendo. I mean,
Oh,
who
Lord.
knows? Like, there's probably a lot of companies that would be like, all right, you know, we want to make a game and we'll make some of the money and we'll let you use these characters. Like, it can't be that hard to do, I imagine. Like, I know licensing agreements can be difficult, but if you're making a new one, you're basically starting, you know, like, it gets worse over time. Like, that's why progressively the Marvel games, it got a little more dicey. I don't know. I'm just saying, like, people to get too hung up on what isn't going to be anymore instead of, like, what could be.
I think, well, not only that, they get hung up on IP names.
Yeah,
like,
definitely.
They get really hung up on IP names. Like I think some people are still like sad Silent Hills is gonna be a thing, and it's like which Kojima got. It's like you're not actually expecting like anything good for the Silent Hill series, are you? Like, why haven't you just ditched that? Like, why have you people not understood and just abandoned Silent Hill? Like, well, most people have, but there's always those people that are just around like, oh, I'm a big Silent Hill fan. It's like, I don't know, man. Why don't you like look forward to what Kojima actually wants to do? Because with any luck, he'll probably try to do something similar to what he wanted to do. But speaking of fucking people over, Del Toro actually finally kind of spoke out about it. He says he's not even sure if he's ever actually going to do a game now because he's been burned twice trying to like get involved in the games industry.
And this is another thing. This is actually something I'm really glad you brought this up, because for so long, you know, like a lot of journalists and people online will say like, why is the game industry kind of seen so negatively by like other industries?
Because it treats everything and everyone like shit.
Yeah, it's because the big publishers, who are in large part representative of the industry, are fucking terrible. Yeah, what more proof do you need of that, of Konami?
I get legitimately a little annoyed when I'm like talking with someone. They're like, "Oh, I love this industry. Like, I love it. We're being like, no, like this is subpar. Like, we can be doing better, and you should ask for better." Like, this industry, we just had a long conversation about how much crunch work people are just expected to do. We've had how many
without pay.
How many publishers have like fucked people over in the last just 3 years? Like, this is like a subject we can return to almost every episode because there's a new example of it every other month.
And we don't want to sound naive. Like, I know in the movie industry there's some shady stuff that happens too, obviously.
Of course.
But I think the main difference is they at least will try to have a certain amount of professionalism when it comes to representation.
Stars have star power.
That too.
Directors have a certain amount of power. Big directors in the game industry are like seen as like replaceable names to everyone but the fans.
I guess like a good example I'm trying to say is like, I don't think you'll ever see, for example, Universal Studios just being like, oh, this director who made like the last 5 our best movies, fuck him. We're taking his name off everything now. Like you're never gonna see that because they have enough sense to
Yeah,
know
take
that's
his name
not good
off of it.
business.
That's like a thing that will not
Yeah,
happen. Yeah, Jesus.
like that's the difference between the big publishers in the game industry and other industries, that they have a special kind of crazy. Like,
We need, yeah, the
uh,
problem, and I've said this like, oh, a long time ago. I was talking with like friends about like why, like why don't you like want to be part of the industry? Like why, like, because I always view indies as like sort of removed from it. Like
yeah,
they're interacting with it, but like they don't, like nothing they're doing really matter. Like no one's telling them what to do. They do whatever the fuck they want. Is like games and gamers, like everyone involved in gaming, including people who play games, they try to see it as like some kind of snowflake. Like everything's just a little like they're not exempt. Like they think they're exempt from the rules every other major industry seems to follow. And Jim
yeah.
Sterling thought about this a bit. Like smart, like big corporations don't take one product and push the crap out of it because they've learned not to do that decades ago. Like McDonald's is not gonna just try to sell one thing and like that's the one thing and just like variations of it. It's like no, they have like coffee and chicken and all this, all this sort of shit. But it's like Activision for like a lot of people looked at what they did with Call of Duty where they managed to iterate on it every year. And they're like, how can we take that and do it with every other game we can get our grubby hands on?
And you know what? The sad thing about that is Activision mostly just got lucky with Call of Duty because
for sure.
they tried doing that same thing with a bunch of other IPs and killed them.
They keep doing it.
Like Guitar Hero, Tony Hawk, both Activision series, both
EA
games.
did that to Dead Space.
Yeah.
They killed it.
Yep.
They killed Dead Space. Dead Space did not die. Okay, like Dead Space did not have a quality. I mean, you could argue 3 was worse. I do think it was worse, but it was not because people were like, "Oh, this game sucks." It's because they fucked those developers. They pinned them to a wall and they fucked them. Like for nothing they did, nothing. Like it didn't even have anything to do with the developers of the game. They just wanted something from the game for no real logical reason, and they just had the final say in that, and that's what happened to the game. That series is dead. And if you like that genre of game, well, eat a dick because they don't care about you.
Yep.
Meanwhile, new Battlefield game, again, because if there's anything I like out of these $60 multiplayer big team battle games with multiple $20 expansions, is a sequel within less than 2 years. That really makes me want to pay more money for your fucking product. You fucking leeches.
It's
Who
just
buys Battlefield games? What's wrong with you people?
a lot of people do.
What's
A
wrong with you
lot of people.
What is actually wrong with you people?
But they're so good.
It's like these aren't like minor things. Like these are giant map packs where it's like if you don't play these games, it's like okay, well if most of the servers like transition to playing like a lot of those maps, get fucked. Like you're bodied. It's over.
I think as far as like Battlefield and Call of Duty go, it's definitely a large part in like social circles where it's like, well, my friend got it and I want to play with my friend, so I'm gonna get it, and it just kind of snowballs from there. League of Legends and Dota 2 are very similar in that regard.
Like I can understand wanting to do more constant iterations for like a single player game. Like especially if it's like not that long of a single player game. Like I'm not saying it will always turn out good, but I can understand it at least.
Yep.
Like if they did a new Super Meat Boy game or whatever, like every year and a half, and it was just like 40 new levels, I don't think anyone would be too offended.
Probably not. No.
But like a game where it's like, oh, like now it's like a new meta game and like new like this and new that and new levels, and we're gonna add DLC on top of that. That's $20, and you have to unlock things. Speaking of which, let's get on the Battlefront, because I don't think we ever actually spoke about that game.
No, we
Anyone
didn't.
who's not expecting that game to not take every EA dick that like DICE is willing to take and just shove it right in your face, I got bad news. The game is going to be, I guarantee, probably if it's not a pretty typical shooter, it's going to have every trapping of a pretty typical shooter.
Yep.
It's going to have leveling and
Custom loadouts.
Yeah, it's going to have probably DLC maps. Wouldn't be shocked at all.
Better pre-order it. Get those pre-order bonuses.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Experience bonuses.
I'm sure it's not going to have any like good cohesive design because it's going to be focusing on just like, like big stupid things over like anything smart. it's not going to be balanced because we already know one person on both sides is going to get to play as like a hero character. So have fun trying to learn how to play this one character, and Darth Maul just shows up and stabs you in the face because one person just gets his turn to be the good guy, which is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life.
Yep.
I can't believe how people were trying to defend that to me. If that happened to like a game I actually like playing, I would literally just stop playing. Like, imagine if in Counter-Strike Go, for instance, every game, like, just a random person, like, on each team, just gets to be the dude with, like, twice the amount of health and, like, a gun that's really easy to hit with, and, like, two shots people. Like, people would boycott that game. Like, the Counter-Strike community would be like, no, you can eat my ass.
We're not buying that.
Yeah. But these games, because they're just marketed to the lowest common denominator, let's just be real about it, people are going to support it. And it's a damn shame, because I'm not saying I need every game to be like hardcore. Like, don't like get it confused. Like, I'm not some really skilled, like, there's no game I could say I'm like super good at. But it's like, I just want a game to not treat me like I'm a child, like I don't know what's going on. Like, especially experience game. Like, people are like, oh, that's a progression system. And I'm like, no. A progression system is when you get better at something. What that is it's like, oh, I want to learn how to play soccer. Progression in playing soccer is you get better at kicking, you get better at scoring goals against someone defending, you get better at learning the physics of the ball. What EXP unlocks are is you buy a ball, and no matter how much you paid for it, even if it's just a perfectly fine ball, you have to play with it deflated, and you have to play with a smaller net, and you don't get to play with a real ball until you score 50 times. If someone told me I had to do that, I'd sock them in the face, grab the ball, and hit them over the head with it, and go find an air pump and pump it up. And be like, no, playing with a real ball.
And the whole sad thing about it is I think the only reason they do this experience thing now is because I guarantee somewhere they have data that shows that the experience system keeps people playing the game longer, which increases the chances of them buying expansion packs and DLC. So we're going to put it in there because people will play it more to see them unlock things because they're progressing. Hey, I've been playing this game a while. I might as well buy the $20 expansion pack.
I really wish people would stop listening to focus tests. Like,
it works, obviously. I mean,
it's not, but it's not always as like useful as people think it is. It can also be bad because it can also water down your product. Like, Dark Souls would have been raped by focus tests. Like,
definitely.
If you listen to your focus testers within like a week, like say like they only had like a week with the game, it was the average person, like it would on paper look terrible. Like it'd be like, definitely. Over 50% of the people hated your game. Like, your game sucks.
Yeah, definitely. That's another thing that I bring up a lot is that way too many people at times people focus on like they'll say like people don't like X, and it's like, well, okay, maybe that's true, but what is your target audience? Like, who do you intend to actually play this game? Because it doesn't matter at all if, like, the mainstream doesn't like this thing if you're not targeting them in the first place.
Even getting into the mainstream, and I'm not a fan of MOBAs at all, but there's no way you can tell me those kinds of games would focus test well with, like, random casual gamers. Like let's say, like, those games just didn't exist. Let's say you just made one, and it was, you just made Dota 2. And you had it focus tested. How many people would just make your game look awful, like they're playing it for the first time, and they're just like, what is this? I don't know what I'm doing.
Why do I kill these guys?
What am I doing? What do I use gold for? How do I know what build I should, like, it's all these things, like, it'd be terrible.
Yeah, it probably would be.
But if you just, when they just release the game and people are like, okay, this is what the game is, you're just gonna have to learn it. Like, it's the biggest game on Steam. League of Legends is one of the biggest games ever. Like, ever.
The thing that really made me really start thinking about the target audience thing is that there's a forum for a game design site. I think it's called Dino Farm.
Oh boy.
And their artist was talking about how he's all right. I don't want to take anything he said out of context, but to summarize, he's basically saying you shouldn't do pixel art for games because people have a negative view of it. And he's a pixel artist, but he's basically saying he's not going to ever do pixel art again because people inherently look down on it.
I can and like I know you said you don't want to take things out of context, but I definitely remember him saying is people referring to like graphics, like nice sprite art is good looking if a little pixelated, and he said basically mounted that to you're paying the pixel tax. Like no matter how good your sprite art looks, it still is going to look pixelated, quote unquote, to people.
And that is a thing he said, and that's actually the thing I was just about to mention because he was specifically talking about a review of I think it was King of Fighters 13,
Yep.
where as far as pixel art goes, it's amazing. But this guy said while it is good, it's pixel and whatnot. Well, here's the thing, and this is where I think he's reaching really, really incorrect conclusions. Is that he's basically taking from that is, oh, King of Fighters 13 shouldn't have used this type of art style because some people don't like it. Well, here's the thing. I highly doubt the guy who reviewed King of Fighters 13, if that was the King of Fighters game in question, which I'm pretty sure it was, I highly doubt that they were specifically targeting him as a potential purchase.
Yeah.
King of Fighters is a fighting game, which is already a fairly niche genre.
Yep.
And on top of that, it's not even the most popular fighting game around. In some parts of the world, it's pretty big, but generally speaking, it's not a Street Fighter. It's not Tekken. It's a lower tier. So I really don't think they give a shit, to be blunt, if the general mainstream gaming industry is like, oh, we don't like pixel art. The people they're targeting care much more about the gameplay mechanics, and a lot of them are probably more nostalgic for sprite work from when they played.
Some prefer the look of it, period.
Yeah. So the idea that he could draw from that, like, oh, they made that mistake because people don't like that, I think that's really looking at it completely wrong.
Stop
I think
listening to focus tests.
Stop listening to reviewers. And
that too. Also, what the fuck's wrong with all you people who constantly like clown on all of the major gaming sites, and yet like it's so common for people to be like, oh, I can't wait for the reviews. Like, all I have to say to you is, what credentials do any of these random schmucks have that like makes you think their opinion is valid?
Yeah.
Like they don't
I
even
don't know.
present actual like cases for their work. It's like that's not me. Like being pretentious is like I can point to almost every major reviewer and like half their shit's like I don't know anything about the actual mechanics of the game. It's just like, and some of it just comes off as like something they were paid to write. Like even like the Souls reviews, like I guarantee most of those reviews wouldn't sell me on the game alone. I'd be like, okay, so it's hard.
My favorite example of that is that Famitsu did not like Demon Souls. They thought it was trash. No one's gonna like this game. Dark Souls comes out. Oh, this game's great. You're gonna love it. Yeah. So it's like, wait, what changed? Oh, Dark. You didn't think Demon Souls was gonna be popular, so you didn't give it a good score. Yep. Dark Souls, oh, it's popular now, so now it's good. Like, It's so bullshit. But that's a whole nother thing. Famitsu is absolute shit, and anyone who thinks Famitsu's good, you don't know what the hell you're talking about. They're like one of the worst.
I don't think if you think any
gaming reviewers
site like.
Some are okay. I mean,
Rock Paper Shotgun's probably okay, but
like there's a lot of review. I know.
Okay, here I'll have to say, if you're a reviewer and you claim to be a fan of RPGs, and if you think Dragon Age Inquisition's a good game, you fucking suck at video games. You don't know what you're doing, and you suck, and I don't like you. Like, let's just be real. Yeah, I'm saying it. That game's so easy to embarrassingly easy to break and so repetitive in such a mind-numbing way. Every single like mechanical thing in it, in my opinion, is just horrible. Like not just like, oh, it's whatever. It's bad.
Well, here's the thing, Brad. A lot of people don't care about gameplay in RPGs.
Yeah,
yes,
of course.
I said it.
And that's why I fucking hate all these reviewers. Like, they're just so like they're not gamers. Like they're not like, oh, I actually understand video games. They're just like, oh, I played this game and I sort of enjoyed the writing, so it was good. It's like I have like all those times where it's like, oh, I really want to like, okay, there's literally a part in the game where like you're asked to choose like a specialization for your character, which sounds like it's supposed to be badass. Like there's like this trainer who's like, oh, you can. So I'm like a mage, right? And the trainer's like, oh, you can be a spell swordsman, and I'm like, okay, that sounds like the coolest thing ever. How do I do that? And she's like, oh, well, I need you to go collect these things. And I'm like, wait, what? And she's like, yeah. And I'm not even going to tell you what some of them are. And then I Google, and it's like, oh yeah, you have to go to these like obscure locations on this map so you can get like a wisp essence. And then you need to go to this part or your fort, and you find a book, and you click it, and then you go up to her, and then you become a spell swordsman.
So it's a fetch quest.
Like that literally, like if you put that in your game, if you put one of those in your game, you're a fraud as far as I'm concerned. And that's not the only time they do that. That's a huge portion of that game. And that wasn't like a big thing. Like, reviewers were just kind of like, oh, it's got some fluff. It's like, no, it's all fluff. The game's nothing but fluff.
But wasn't it Game of the Year in a lot of places?
Yeah, Jim Sterling called it like one of his favorite games. And I was like, what? Like, what? This is garbage. Like, the game's so bad that, like, if you just stare at, like, your character screen, like, your classes for, like, a couple, like, minutes, you quickly realize, oh, wait, the mage has an energy shield, and it's pretty strong. And you could have as many mages in a party as you want. So you could just get 3 of them, and you could cast it. And then when it's almost broken, you could cast it again with a different one. And then by the time it's almost broken, probably 2 out of the 3 can cast it. So you could have one of them cast a stun or something, while the other casts a shield. And then you just keep doing that.
And then you never lose ever.
Like I literally figured that out, and like 30 or 40 hours later, I was doing the exact same thing. That's bad.
That's
really, really bad.
Deep gameplay right there.
That's really, like, people love to talk about like action RPGs like Diablo being repetitive. It's like, yeah, but like those games actually have me thinking. Like, as I'm going through, it's like, oh, my character needs this. Like, gear wise, like, I need this. Dragon Age, it's like, no, you just figured out the game. All you need now is to keep equipping things that have better stats, because you're never going to be given a smart, like, decision to make stat wise, because that would imply this game actually had thought into it.
Oh, this does 12 more damage a hit. Okay.
And that's BioWare in general. I'm gonna say this right now, because I've always despised them for a long time. I'm gonna use this as my fucking place to say it. BioWare has not known how to make an RPG for a long time, and it shows with every major game they've done in the last, like, what, decade? Literally every game they do, they make things and then they put stats on them, and that's the game. Like, if you really want to tell me Mass Effect has like a single, like, minute of like meaningful thought put into its design decisions, you're out of your fucking mind. The game gets easier as you go because you level up a thing. Like, that's really all there is to it. You get your gun stronger, and then you 2-shot enemies instead of taking like 12 shots to kill them. Yeah, that's not good design.
So I went to GameSpot today. You know what a guy seriously told me?
What?
He told me with a straight face, dude, if you don't order Splatoon, you might not be able to get it when it comes out. I didn't even answer him. I'm just like, really? Really? How stupid do you think I am?
Well,
you think I'm a blithering fucking idiot.
Well, I think
yes, when Splatoon comes out, I'm not gonna be able to find a copy anywhere.
Street does think you're a blithering idiot, as I was
like, seriously, like I really.
Shit. Man, I got to do a long answer, didn't I?
Yeah, that was a little bit much.
It was fun though.
Splatoon comes out, you won't be able to find a copy anywhere, man.
Yeah, especially not on Amazon or digital
or just walk. And you know what? I even said this to my brother when we were there. When we were
should have said that to him.
No. As we were leaving, I said to my brother, I'm like, you know what I really want to do? He's like, what? I'm like, when the Splatoon comes out, I want to show up and just buy the game, because I guarantee there will be like 18 fucking copies just laying around.
That guy's there.
Oh my god! And I'll be the guy that just fucking flip him the double bird and be like, "What did you say? You better pre-order it." Or I'll like buy a copy from like Best Buy across the street. And be like, "Here, you look at that."
So I think what we're really showing with this podcast episode is that the games industry is a really fun place to be a part of. It's a really fun thing to buy things from. It's really it's good. It's good.
I like working without being paid. It's great.
It's good. Anything else we want to cover, or can we go hang ourselves now?
No, that's bad. So, one other thing.
Ooh.
You know what I'd like to see?
Ooh.
At E3, I would like to see like a Splatoon tournament at the Nintendo World Championships.
Yeah.
But then again, I don't know if like there's enough people who are competent enough at the game. Like, I know they had like a beta.
I want them to announce some big cash prize, and I want them to put it as like Mario Kart 8, so like a bunch of people start really practicing a game that's designed to just randomly screw you over. Because that would be something.
No, Mario Kart 8 has modes where there's no...
But they gotta play on the one that isn't, because it's Nintendo, and that's what they do.
Well, at least for the E3 thing last year for Smash 4, they had the finals where
Yeah, it was alright, yeah.
it wasn't too bad.
But you gotta admit, it would be kind of hysterical to see like someone lose $1 million over a blue shell. That would be kind of like that. Come on, like you gotta admit, that'd be kind of amazing.
Look, high-level players dodge blue shells. Like, come on, don't be a scrub.
like it'd be like hype for like the wrong reasons, but like
yeah, I want.
Like I'd love to see like top players actually dealing with stupid stuff.
I want to see someone lose totally. it has nothing to do with their skill as a player.
Yeah. Basically.
Oh, he got hit with lightning right as he went over that corner. Oh, he's in the pit. He's dead.
See, in case anyone can't see what we're doing here, this is what people are basically saying when they're saying melee players aren't like real pros because they don't have items on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, the all that needs to be said about that, because that argument has been brought up so many times where it's like, oh, there should be item tournaments, blah blah. Eventually, I forget who started saying it, but they brought up a really good point. They're like, look, if you want to have item tournaments, host an item tournament. The thing is, no one goes to those tournaments. If there really was a lot of people who wanted competitive item tournaments, they'd be a thing.
Yep.
It isn't like people.
Yeah, it doesn't inspire people to be competitive.
Exactly. It's not meant. It's a different way to play.
Yep.
I don't understand why people can't make that distinction. It's two different things.
Well, it looks like at least what I like about what I'm seeing from Splatoon is it's like it's very Nintendo looking, but like nothing about it's like random. Like from what I've seen at least, it looks like a game you can just get good at and get rewarded for being good at. Like it's not afraid to be a competitive game. Like that's the thing that's really annoyed me with a lot of publishers in general of game, like not developers. It's like it always seems like there's this fear of like players just being good. Like they need like a reward system. They need, or they're like no, fuck you. Just the game's good and fun, and that's all it needs to be done. God damn it.
So, is there anything else to talk about?
No, there's nothing interesting going on in gaming. Period, Nick.
Nothing.
Well, I mean, unless you want to talk about like something not in current news.
Well, I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Resident Evil 7. When is it and where can I buy
it? That's actually a good. Speaking of publishers being insane, do they even have enough money to fund that game? Do they?
Probably not.
That's like a question I want an answer to actually.
Well, I know they sunk a lot of money into what was the name of that game? I already forgot the name of it. Oh my god!
The map.
Well, first Capcom went fucking crazy with that game where it's like, oh, it's gonna be all about pay to win, and people were like, wait, what? And that
they were
was
like really happy to announce that too.
Yeah, they thought people were gonna be cool with that.
And to think, I was like, I remember when the PS4 was first being like shown and stuff. That was like one of those games where I was like, oh, that might sell me on a PS4. This is before Bloodborne or anything. Yeah. I was just looking at their exclusives, and things just started tapering off rather quickly.
Wait, there was another thing. Shit.
Oh shit.
We were gonna bring. Metal Gear Solid 6 coming to mobile near you.
Oh yeah.
It's gonna be great. I called it.
We called it.
Called it. No, yeah. I called it.
I knew it was gonna happen.
Don't get it twisted.
Oh,
I called. You doubted me.
Did I?
Yeah, you totally did.
I don't think I doubted you.
It's on the record. You were like, I don't know if they go Metal Gear Solid.
Yeah, but either way,
I fucking nailed it.
Looking forward to Metal Gear Online.
All right, so it's gonna be Metal Gear Solid 6 Outer Heaven Ops, right? You buy soldiers and fight other people's bot soldiers.
Oh no. And
you can buy booster trainers for your soldiers to make them higher level.
Oh no.
It's gonna be great. I can't wait. I'm very excited.
Yeah, I'm buying what's the big smartphone? Buying one of those right now. I'll record our next podcast on that.
I'm buying an iPhone 3 tomorrow.
Yeah.
I don't even know if that's a thing. Is there an iPhone 3?
No, neither is this podcast. It's done and it's over with forever. We've jumped the shark. It's done. It's done now.